Good afternoon. I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. If we could have roll call, please.
Carlson, Maniscalco,
Here.
Dingfelder. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. All right, let's start over. Carlson, Goods.
Here.
Hurtek, Citro.
Here.
Vieira. Here. Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of City Council, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Today is Thursday, April 28th, 2022, and we are here at Old City Hall and for tonight's quasi-judicial and land use hearings. The public and the citizens of Tampa are able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and on the internet at tampa.gov/live stream. And members of the public may participate at City Council, either in person here in the City Council chambers at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, or virtually through video teleconferencing, referred to by Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. Pre-registration is necessary to participate virtually in a public hearing on a quasi-judicial or legislative matter, and for more information, that is on the website at tampa.gov/quasi, QUASI, which is also on the same page as tampa.gov/city council. A reminder to participants on the virtual platform, you must have access to a communications media technology device such as a tablet or a computer equipped with a camera or microphone that will enable you to be seen and heard by City Council and all other participants. For these specific two-way video virtual meeting formats, cell phones and smartphones are not compatible, as they will not allow you to share your camera when connected. Now, with regard to the GoToMeeting platform, there is a chat box available. Members of the public, I ask that you only use that for technical problems. Do not use the chat to communicate with City Council during the meeting. Likewise, same for emails or texts. If any City Council members get any emails or texts during the meeting, I ask that you do not, that's related to tonight's hearings, that you do not look at them, or you immediately, if you had, you do disclose them. With regard to ex parte communications, if you've had any verbal ex parte communications prior to the start of the hearing, please be sure to disclose with whom that happened and the sum and substance of that communication and when that happened, and also that lastly, that you adopt these rules for CMT to waive the rules that are your standing rules and adopt the rules that are in your notice and in the instructions for tonight's hearings.
We have a motion to adopt those rules.
So moved.
Motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, we have two absences this evening, and we have memos received by both offices. Councilwoman Hurtak sent a memo that she will not be able to attend this evening's meeting due to a prior obligation, and Councilmember Carlson, who was here for this morning's session, will not be attending this evening's meeting, and they have both sent memos for the record. So, no? All right, there you go. We have a motion from Councilman Miranda to receive and
Second.
file, and a second from Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. We also have a couple of continuances. Now remember, we only have 5 council members here this evening. There is a request from Russell Ottenberg for item number 7 that this hearing be continued to June 23rd, 2022. This is item number 7, REZ 21-130. May we have a motion to...
So moved. Second.
Yes? Oh, can we get a motion to move items 1 through 12?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda with a second from Councilman Citro. All in favor? Aye. All hearings are open. So is item number 7 that they wish to have a continuance. We had a motion from... Is there anybody that wishes to speak on item number 7? Just the continuance, not the substance of the case, just a continuance. We have someone online? Okay. If Mr. Ottenberg, do we need to swear him in just for this continuance, sir? No? Okay. Mr. Ottenberg, if you're on, please turn on your camera. There you are. And unmute yourself.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
I need to be sworn in.
No, you don't, not on the continuance. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. As the letter submitted states, we request the additional time to address some concerns that we believe would apply to this application that were raised on a couple of other rezonings in close proximity to this, and that were very similar to this for 306 South Albany Avenue and 407 and 409 South Albany Avenue that were heard a couple weeks ago. And so we'd like some time to work on those items and address City Council and the residents' concerns that were brought up during those hearings.
Any questions for the gentleman regarding just the continuance? We have motion to continue from, no need to close it because it's continued.
No,
Motion to continue from Councilmember Good, second from Councilmember Miranda,
With you stating the date and time, please.
for June 23rd, 2022 at 5:01 PM. Roll call?
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Burtek, Carlson, Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera, and Goods. Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak and Carlson being absent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, that there is a request for continuance. We have a letter submitted by Julia Mandel requesting that AB 2-21-21, item number 11, be continued to June 23rd, 2022 at 5:01 PM. Do we have anybody that's here to speak on item 11, just a continuance? Seeing none, hearing none. Do we have anybody registered for item 11? No?
Mr. Chair, I move that AB 2-21-21 be moved to June 23rd, 2022,
We have a motion from Councilman, all right, 5:01 PM.
5:01. Thank you.
Motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call?
Viera. Yes. Citro,
Yes.
Miranda. Yes. Hurtak, Carlson, Goods,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak and Carlson being absent.
All right, those are all the continuances that I have for now. We will begin with item number 1. Do we have anybody with the planning commission? No? They are. Item number 1. All right, there they are. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Councilman Diego Guerra. Item number 1 is CPA 2123. I would like to share my screen for a quick presentation.
All right, we can see it. We gotta just make it bigger. Go ahead.
All right, good evening, Councilman Diego Guerra, Planning Commission staff. This is the adoption hearing for CPA 2123, a text amendment to the Tempest comprehensive plan regarding the coastal hazard area. This is a publicly initiated amendment. The state updated the coastal hazard area for local governments in the city of Tampa recently. The coastal hazard area is set by state law. On the screen, you'll see Coastal Management Policy 1.1.2. This is the policy that was updated to be consistent with state law and clarifies when the coastal hazard area becomes effective. Gentlemen, this concludes my presentation. Planning Commission recommends City Council adopt the text amendment to CPA 2123. At this time, I'm available for any questions.
All right, do we have any questions of the gentleman at this time? Hearing none, do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 1? All right, do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
Motion from Councilmember Good, second from Councilmember Miranda, all in favor? Aye. Councilman Miranda, would you like to read the substitute ordinance for item number 1?
Item number 1, file number TA/CPA 23-23. 21-23. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance amending the Image 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan, future land use element to amend coastal management policies 1.1.2, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Yes,
Second.
yes, ma'am?
What is that?
Well, thank you, Viera. Well, colleague got me there.
Is it?
Okay, well, this doesn't have a number on it at all.
It's on the agenda, right?
The numbers aside.
It's on the agenda.
You want me to read what's in the agenda then?
It's not the same.
Okay. Ordinance number 2022, I would imagine is the same number. That's
TA
file number
dash C- yeah.
TA/CPA 21-23. An ordinance amending the Image 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan Coastal Management Element to amend Coastal Management Element Policy 1.1.2, providing for repeal of all ordinance in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Second for Councilman Citro, roll call?
Carlson, Vieira. Yes. Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak, Goods,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson and Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much. Item number 2.
I'm sorry, second reading and adoption will be held on May 19, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
All right, item number 2.
All right, good evening, Councilman and Eagle Guerra, Planning Commission staff. This is the adoption hearing for CPA 2124, a map amendment regarding the coastal high hazard area. This is a publicly initiated amendment. The state updated the coastal high hazard area for local governments to include the city of Tampa, and the update is required to be reflected in the comprehensive plan. There is no discretion on the local level as the state sets the coastal high-hazard area. This amendment updates the future land use maps based in the public access map as displayed on the screen. This amendment will leave two maps on the screen which are currently adopted in the comprehensive plan. With these updated maps now available and displayed on your screen. Gentlemen, Gentlemen, the Planning Commission recommends City Council adopt map amendment, CPA 2124. At this time, this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Do we have any questions for the gentleman? Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 2? Do we have anybody registered? We have a motion closed by
Second.
Councilman Good, second from Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Vieira, would you mind reading item number 2?
Sure. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Element to update the future land use map, FLUM, and Coastal High Hazard Area, SHHA, public access map, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call?
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak, Carlson, Vieira.
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson and Hurtak being absent.
And second reading?
Second reading and adoption will be held on May 19, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you. Item number 3?
This is Danny Collins. Can I share my screen? This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. The next three amendments are park amendments. I'll go through each one individually. Let's get started. Next three amendments we'll be looking at is TACPA 2131's Interbay Pool, TACPA 2132 MLK Junior Recreation Center, and TACPA 2133 USF Park. Just a quick background, all three amendments are publicly initiated. Sorry about that. All three amendments were publicly initiated to recognize existing City of Tampa parks. Each park is listed on the City of Tampa's dedicated park list, and that's section 16-91 of the Land Development Code. And all sites would be recognized through the Recreation Open Space Future Land Use designation. All parks, the Planning Commission reviewed all parks and found it consistent in promoting recreation and open space opportunities throughout the city. Our first park is TCC Pm 131. It's Interbay Pool. It's in the South Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, it's within the Operative Heights neighborhood. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. The subject site is located at the northeast corner of South Manhattan Avenue and West Estrella Street. The uses to the west of the site of South Manhattan Avenue are predominantly residential. There are some residential uses to the north and south of the subject site. This is an image looking at the site from South Manhattan Avenue. This is another image looking, I'm sorry about that. This is another image looking at the entrance to the pool. The subject site is currently recognized under the public, semi-public future land use designation. That land use is present to the north, east, and south of the site. Directly to the west of the site, our parcel is recognized under the residential 10, and then southwest of the site, our parcel is recognized under the residential 6 future land use designation. Here is the proposed future land use map, which would recognize the entire site under the recreation open space designation. Currently, the subject site, we cannot determine the maximums intensities under the public, semi-public designation. Those are typically determined at the time of permitting. But this amendment would remove any potential residential, non-residential development on the subject site. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission recommends that the proposed map amendment TCCPA 2131 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation.
Any questions for the gentleman? Is there anybody that wishes to speak on item number 3? Anybody registered for 3?
Move to close.
Second. Close from Councilman Citro, second from Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Councilman Citro, would you mind reading item number 3?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. File number TACPA 21-31. Ordinance being presented for first reading and consideration. An ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Element, Future Land Use Map for the property located at 4321 West Estrella Street, otherwise known as Interbay Pool, from public, semi-public, PQP, to recreational open space, ROS, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson, Hurtak, Miranda,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak and Carlson being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on May 19, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, number 4.
Our next case is TACPA 2132. It's for Martin Luther King Jr. Recreation Complex in the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, it's in the West River neighborhood. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and surrounding properties. The subject site is generally north of West Spruce Streets and to the west of North Oregon Avenue. Here is an image looking at the site from South Oregon Avenue. This is another shot looking at the site from South Oregon Avenue as well. Here is the entrance to the facility. Currently, the subject site is recognized under the Neighborhood Mixed Use 35 Future Land Use Designation. That designation is to the north, east, and south of the subject site. To the west of the subject site are parcels recognized under the Residential 35 designation. As proposed, the subject site would be recognized under the Recreation Open Space designation. This map amendment would remove the consideration of 191 dwelling units or 356,755 square feet of residential or non-residential uses from the subject site. Planning Commission reviewed the proposed map amendment, TACPA 2132, and recommends that it be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation.
Any questions for the gentleman? Do we have anybody that wishes to speak on item number 4? Do we have anybody registered for item number 4?
Move to close.
Motion closed from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilmember Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilmember Goods, item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number TA-CPA 21-32, order being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan, future land use element, future land use map for the property located at 22 North Oregon Avenue, otherwise known as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Recreation Complex, from neighborhood mixed use 35, NMU 35 to recreational/open space ROS, providing for repeal of all ordinance in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion for Councilmember Goods, second for Councilmember Citro. All in, roll call?
Miranda,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Carlson, Goods,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson and Hurtak being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on May 19, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Item number 5, Mr. Collins.
Our last amendment for tonight is TACPA 2133. It's USF Park. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District. It's within the Tampa Downtown Partnership. It's also within the coastal hazard area in the Central Business District periphery. The subject site is shown here on our aerial map. It's outlined in this black color. It's along just to the west of South Drive, south of the Selman Expressway. Here is an image looking at the subject site from South Ashley Drive. This is looking at this subject's looking east from the subject site towards South Ashley Drive. The subject site is currently recognized under the public semi-public designation. The CBD future land use designation is generally found north, east, and south of the subject site. Across from the subject site to the west are parcels recognized under the RMU 100 and the recreational open space designation along the water. This map amendment would recognize the entire site under the recreation open space designation. Here's a slide showing the potential impacts of the proposed change. This would remove any potential residential or non-residential development from the subject site. The Planning Commission reviewed the request and found it consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation.
All right, do we have any questions for Mr. Collins? Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 5? Do we have anybody registered? We have a motion closed for Councilman Goods, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilman Miranda, item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 5, file number TA/CPA 23-33. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance amending the Image 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan, future land use element, future land use map for the property located at 225 South Ashley Drive, otherwise known as USF Park, from public, semi-public, parentheses P/QP/Q, parentheses, to recreation/open space, RO/OS, providing for repeal of all ordinance in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. Roll call.
Citro,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Carlson, Hurtak, Miranda,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Hurtak and Carlson being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on May 19, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
All right, we now go into our quasi-judicial hearings, items 6 through 12. If you are here to speak on any item 6 through 12, please stand up, raise your right hand, and we'll swear everybody in.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give tonight is the truth and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
All right, you've been sworn in, and so have the people on the screen. Thank you very much. All right, item number 6.
Good evening, Council. Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. Item number 6 on the agenda is REZ 21-127. It's a continued public hearing from March 10th, 2022. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property at 3003 West Cypress Street from CG Commercial General to PD Plan Development to develop with residential single-family attached. Now turn it over to Mr. Collins with the Planning Commission.
This is Danny Collins again with the Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our first case is in the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically in the West Tampa Urban Village. The closest transit stop is approximately 130 feet west of the subject site along West Cypress Street. The stop is served by Route 10, providing connections to Tampa International Airport and downtown Tampa. Closest public recreation facility, Villa Brothers Park, is located approximately 1,600 feet to the southeast of the site. Subject site is located within a level E evacuation zone. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. The subject site is generally east of McDill, of the intersection of McDill and West Cypress Street. It's on the north side of West Cypress Street. There are non-residential uses directly to the west of the subject site. To the north, east, and south are residential uses. Here is the adopted future land use map. The entire subject site is recognized under the Community Mixed Use 35 future land use designation. That CMU 35 is present along the north side of West Cypress Street. The south side of West Cypress Street is predominantly recognized under the residential 20 future land use designation. And then as you transition south and then also north of the subject site, it transitions to a residential 10 single family neighborhood. The Planning Commission staff has reviewed the application, found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. This portion of West Cypress Street is developed at 27% of the density anticipated under the Community Mixed Use 35 designation. This is primarily due to West Cypress Street primarily consisting of single-family detached homes and commercial uses along this segment. The request proposes 47 single-family attached units at an overall density of 23 units per acre, which is below the density that's anticipated under the CMU 35 designation. Additionally, the subject site is located on a collector roadway along the periphery of a neighborhood where single-family attached units are encouraged in the comprehensive plan. The plan development addresses the mixed-use corridor policies by placing the proposed residential units close to the public rights-of-way and including the orientation of the front door, neighborhood sidewalk, and street. The PD provides internal connections which will help ensure pedestrian safety, accessibility, and help create a more walkable urban environment along Cypress. The request supports many of the policies in the comp plan as it relates to housing the city's population. By developing the site at a density of 23.26 units per acre, the request will add additional housing opportunities to the growing Central Tampa Planning District. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Mr. Collins? All right, Mr. Cotton, I see you're on.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. May I share my screen, please?
Go ahead, sir. We can see it.
Okay, thank you. So again, this is a rezoning, REZ 21-127 for a property of 3003 West Cypress Street. As Mr. Collins alluded to, the applicant is seeking to develop the property with single families attached development. The applicant is asking for 4 waivers. The first is to reduce the southern setback along the front yard setback, which is because this is in West Tampa, which is based on block average, from 25 down to 10 feet. To reduce the backup width from 6 feet to 2 feet. And when I show the site plan, I'll review these just so council knows where these requests are at. To allow for 40 of the 47 ground floor entrances not to face a public street, and to reduce the building separation from 15 feet to 9 feet for buildings H, G, and F. So this property is at the corner of New Jersey and Cypress. This is the original plat. It was platted back in 1919, consists of 10 units or 10 lots. Property surrounding this development, the development here is highlighted in the red. To the north is single-family development. Along the west, which is over here, is developed with commercial property. Across New Jersey on the south, across Cypress on the south side is a mixture of commercial and some residential. And let's see, sorry about this. And so the zoning across the street is CN and PD, along with some single family. Again, proposed uses for 8 single family attached plans. This is the existing site plan. Let me go to the actual the proposed developed plan on here. So this is the proposed development on the site. So just going through the waivers and looking at the site plan itself, the required setback along Cypress should be 25 feet. As you can see, I read this area right through here. It's only 10. Again, this is based on block average. The backup space, as somebody backs out of the garages on these townhomes here, and here along New Jersey, this is supposed to be 6 feet. It's only proposed to be 2. The only homes that have frontage facing the street are along Cypress. The remaining properties are all inward facing. So that's one of the other waivers. And the last waiver, of course, is the building separation, which I stated for between lots, buildings H, G, and F. Staff found the overall request inconsistent with revisions required between first and second reading. The revision sheet's been attached to the staff report, has been submitted to council. These are the proposed elevations. The buildings are about 35 feet tall. They are parking 2 cars garage. They are using 2-car garages in the majority of them, and they will have provided the required visitor parking spaces or other parking waivers. This is the existing site. It's the Tampa Letter Carriers building, and just some views looking westward down Cypress. This is the rear of the building. This is along New Jersey. Again, this is at Cypress and New Jersey, and this is looking east back towards downtown. Again, finding was inconsistent. Modifications must be made to the site plan as it's stated in the revision sheet between first and second reading, if council is inclined to approve it. Additionally, the following note must be added. There's a release of easement application going through the same process. This says no construction is allowed in the easement area until the release of easement is approved. That concludes my presentation. Does council have any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Cotton? All right, hearing none. Applicant, yes, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members. My name is David Mechanic, 305 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Onyx and East. With me is Jacob Egan with Onyx and East. Also with me is Greg Roth, engineer with Bowler Engineering, Michael Yates, a certified transportation planner, and Aaron Barker, an architect. And I would ask to enter their resumes into the record.
Thank you very much.
Since I walked away from the mics, I did finish my sentence, but enter those resumes as expert witnesses in this case. I would just like to mention, I was just handed some Florida Department of Transportation document. I have no idea what it is or how it pertains to this project, so I cannot address it, of course. Before I introduce Mr. Roth, I just want to make a few key points. Our permitted density on this site is 60 units, and we are only proposing 47 units, so we are well below the permitted density. I would also like to point out that the staff both the city zoning staff and planning commission staff determined that the uses that we are proposing are compatible with the neighborhood. And they also pointed out that we further an objective of the comprehensive plan to provide for infill housing in Tampa, which is sorely needed. I'd like to address one of the waivers, and Greg Roth will speak in more detail about this. But about 3 weeks ago, City Council amended the city code to allow for townhouses to not be required to face a public right-of-way. They only had to face either a public right-of-way or an internal driveway. That code section was not amended to affect single-family attached housing, which is essentially the same housing type. Single-family attached, as my client is proposing to build it, is a townhome. And so for that reason, we don't understand why there would be a distinction, and that alone would justify the waiver that we are asking for. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Ross to address the project in general and the waivers.
Mr. Mechanic, yeah, you gave me two identical copies. Is one for the clerk and one to be passed around?
Yeah, whatever is a preference. Thank you.
Yes, sir, go ahead, state your name.
PowerPoint.
Good evening, Gregory Roth with Bowler, licensed civil engineer. Address is 3820 Northdale Boulevard, and I have been sworn in. And we do have a PowerPoint. Is there a way to get that on the screen?
I show here Onyx East and.
There we go. That is the
there
one.
it is.
How do I control this? Is there a way to change the slide here from my angle? Maybe not. Did I break it? I'll start. Let me see here. Does this control this slide? Perfect. There we go. Okay. Perfect. So first we're going to walk through the site plan. And just bring everybody back to where we are. There's an existing structure on site with some surface parking. And there are two existing driveways that access Cypress Street. As mentioned, the proposed development is 47 townhome units, fee simple townhomes, and we're proposing two driveways, one on Cypress and one on New Jersey. The site plan itself meets all residential and guest parking requirements. We meet all VUA and multifamily green space requirements, and we meet tree preservation requirements, which I'm happy to report on a townhome project. We are proposing underground stormwater, and just kind of want to get through into the waiver so we can talk about a couple of them in particular. So the first waiver is the block average setback for the buildings that are along Cypress from 25 feet down to 10 feet. It's worth noting that for the West Tampa overlay, the parcel takes up the entire block, and so it will establish the block average. The 25-foot setback is referenced from the RM 24 zoning requirements. The second waiver is the backup waiver from 6 foot to 2 feet in width. We physically can provide, and as you can see, there's two areas where we're asking for that. And it's along New Jersey, where you'd back out from the garages from the townhomes. We could physically provide the 6 feet, but instead of asking for a for this waiver, we would actually be asking for a landscape VUA buffer waiver. So we studied both options to see which was the least intrusive. And so we ran auto turn with a F-150 super cab truck backing out of that westernmost garage. And you can see in the lower right corner there, that's kind of a zoom in of the exhibit showing that truck pulling out. And it has no issue backing out, getting into and out of the garage in the westernmost spot. So considering the fact that we are able to fully access that western garage with the 2 foot backup instead of the 6, we decided that seeking this waiver was least intrusive and allowed us to keep the green space and not ask for any natural resource waivers. The third waiver is the number of front doors facing the right-of-way, which Dave did mention the code change in his opening remarks, but just to talk to it from a site plan standpoint, there physically would be no way to lay this site out at a corner parcel the way it is today with meeting or achieving the density that would be allowed by code without asking for this waiver. There's just no way to make that work. We did look at multiple options for a site plan as well to try and see if there was a way to reduce the waiver. But by doing that, it would actually require us to add other waivers, as in reducing some of the parking or impacting some of the existing trees that we were trying to save with a site plan. So again, that's the reason for that backup, or for that waiver there. And then the final waiver would be to reduce the building separation from 15 feet to 9 feet. And again, we can accommodate this one, but what would happen is we'd impact the trees that we're looking to preserve north of the eastern row of buildings and on the south end. So from now, I'll turn it over to Michael Yates to discuss traffic.
Good evening, Michael Yates with Palm Traffic, and I have been sworn. I'm just going to go briefly through the traffic numbers. So basically, as you can see on the screen, we are a slight increase over the existing office use that is on the site today. It's 123 daily trips. We're at a reduction of 21 AM peak hour trips and an increase of only 6 PM hour trips. So what that equates to is the less than a 1% increase of traffic on Cypress Street. So very minor increase of the capacity. And then what we also did is we looked at some alternative uses that could be done under CG. And as you can see from the trip generation table there in the lower left, it is 105 for a restaurant, 145 for a fast casual restaurant, and we looked at an apartment complex of 140 units in your 81 trips. So that's compared to the 21 PM peak hour trips that we have. So we're a substantial reduction in any of the uses that could be done on site. We also looked at the level of service report tables that are produced by the MPO. It is showing that the VOC, the volume to capacity of the road for Cypress, is at 0.55. So really only half of the capacity is being used today based on the level of service report. I'm going to turn it over to Jacob. Aaron.
And to change the slide.
Just push the right arrow.
Right. Hello, my name's Erin Barker, and I'm the design director for Sharp Design Studio in Tampa. As they've mentioned, the site consists of single-family attached homes with entry and front porches that are raised 24 inches above grade and a build-to height of 35 feet or less. All the homes have a front green space or of a small front yard or courtyard. The homes are designed in a Spanish eclectic architecture. The sloped roofs incorporate 5 to 6 and 12 pitches and are detailed with barrel tile roof. At the top of the building is a parapet, which is consistent with the neighboring architecture. To the west is a commercial building with a small parapet. Across the street on Cypress is a business with a parapet wall, and I believe Alessi's has one with an applied roof to it. The building, the additional Spanish detailing incorporates the use of brackets, scored stucco, the tile roofs, and tile accents, and the half round openings at the front porches. And that concludes my presentation, and I will turn it over to Jacob.
Good evening, I'm Jacob Egan. I'm at 2002 East 4th Avenue. I'm with Onyx and East, the applicant. I'm going to flip through a couple of slides here. I just want to talk really briefly about the site and looking at it and the intention that was put into it to blend in with the uses. Directly to the west, as we described, as a grocery store, heavy intensive commercial. 2 buildings down to the east is a Alessi bakery, again a heavy commercial, and then obviously to the north of us is single family residential, as been described previously. We view this as a great blend between the various uses. We are under the density allowed of 60 units. We are at 47, so we are carrying from the commercial into the residential component of the neighborhood. I also wanted to point out that with the architectural style that Aaron just described, this was very intentionally designed to match the West Tampa district in general. Historically, is a heavy Spanish Mediterranean architectural style. So the reasoning for the elevations is to blend in with the neighborhood. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to David Mechanic, who will wrap up for us. Thank you.
This is Dave Mechanic again. Just briefly, I neglected to mention that the Urban Design Department found the waivers that affect their department to be acceptable, and they were not objecting in any way to this application. And with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Mechanic? None at this time. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item? All right. If you were not sworn in, when you approach the lectern, we'll swear you in. But I believe almost everyone, with the exception of a few, were sworn in. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a mic?
It's
Okay.
integrated there.
My name is Sandy Sanchez, and I have two people that are going to, you and Mark, who have signed to give me a moment of their time. I had 3 other people, but the weather has kept them back. So I'll try to do the best I can. I think it's one of the situations with David and Goliath here. But nevertheless, we're going to try and do something with the material we have.
If I can, Ms. Sanchez, I'm sorry. You also handed out material to council
Yes, I
members
did.
today?
Yes, I did.
And you have one for the record, I understand.
Yes.
Is the name Aiden? Adrian, last name, sir? Laramie, okay. And Mark? Hooper. Okay, 2 extra minutes, please, for Ms. Sanchez.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Please state your
Okay.
name.
I don't know if you can see that,
No, not yet.
but I can begin.
You want to go to the overhead? Could we, I don't know how you do that from, if you can do it from the control room, please.
I've got it here. I don't know what else to do with it.
No, what we do.
There it is.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
If we can make it bigger on our screen, perfect. Thank you.
You're just asking the impossible and taking up my time.
No, it's good. It's good. Your time hasn't started. We can see. We can see it. We can see
Okay.
it.
You have the packet in front of you, so you should be fine. Okay. And my name is Sandy Sanchez, and I'm from the Armory Gardens Civic Association. And I'm here to ask you to deny these waivers that are needed for this development to proceed. I'm sorry, I'm soaking wet. Anyway, please look at item number 1. I can't believe both the city planning and the comprehensive plan folks missed this white elephant in the room. The 2020 report from the FDOT plan for the renovation of I-275 that is going through our city. This part of the plan that includes the Intermodal Transportation Center to be built on West Cypress. How could this possibly have been missed? You will note that that report is in 2020, just 2 years ago. At a general meeting of neighborhoods this past Monday, Mr. Vic Beatty of City of Tampa Mobility Department explained that even though the FDOT plan was not in his control, he did confirm Cypress Street to be the transit corridor between downtown Tampa and the airport. Cypress is the only possibility for this corridor. Think about it. Ironically, I had already exchanged emails with Kristen Carson of the FDOT on March 23rd of this year, and she confirmed DOT still owns the property across from Jefferson High School on Cypress, and there are still plans to go forward with Intermodal Transportation Center. Glenn, please see this item 1 for confirmation of this information. Now I would ask you to look at items 2 and 3, which are the traffic reports submitted by the developer. The front page of this document states the report was submitted in August of 2021. But if you look further to the 3rd page, you will see that the statistics for this report were from 2017. Gentlemen, that's 5 years ago. Midtown was not built, Wawa was not built, neither was the foundry on Armenia. To further the emphasis on the obsolete material, the last page of the report has a copy of the Tampa Level of Service report from 2015. Again, 7 years ago. At this point, it was rated as a D. E is failing. With the traffic today, that report would fail. If you'd please look at items number 4 and 5, you'll see the traffic, the real traffic that is in the neighborhood. I've also included a copy, a map for our neighborhood. Gentlemen, I'd like you to take a look at this. The yellow lines going north and south are the major thoroughfares through our neighborhood. The green line going around it is the neighborhood itself that is going to be influenced by this decision you make. The pink lines going through are the lines that other people take to cut through our neighborhoods. Please notice all the stoplights around our neighborhood, and you will see that on the corner of Havana and Kennedy, there's a new stoplight going up, and there's also a new stoplight going up at Arch when Midtown puts in their 16-story building. Those roads go directly into the neighborhood north of Cypress. The traffic is so bad on Cypress that the Army Garments community has spoken to Vic Beatty, Director of Mobility, for help at the corner of Havana and Cypress, 400 feet away from this proposed project. This is a continual occurrence of accidents and near misses at this corner, and even had a traffic fatality. Again, missed information. Current traffic reports would be able to confirm some of this if these reports were current. Again, how the city planners and comprehensive planners folks did not remember the transit corridor on Cypress and not notice that these traffic reports are obsolete is beyond my comprehension. None of the above items mentioned were included in neither the staff report or the comprehensive plans. Why is that? I couldn't help but notice 24 duplicate letters from the letter carriers. There's only one problem with that. None of them live in our community. I'm always amazed when one department marks a plan consistent, the developer does nothing, and then the plan is found consistent. Both reports are moving targets. Nothing changed from the city planning report. The West Tampa overlay is still in effect. You have to wonder how other overlays in this city get respect, but the West Tampa overlay is ignored. Can I keep going?
No, that's it, ma'am. That was the 5 minutes.
Okay, can I just one last little note, please. If you grant these waivers, which are also totally opposed to the West Tampa overlay, you will jeopardize the ability to comply with the DOT's plans. You will not be able to claim eminent domain and therefore squelch the opportunity to give this community the relief from heavy traffic due to overbuilding and make it impossible to move forward with mass transportation that is so badly needed.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Cotton was from the city and Collins was from the planning commission. Oh. You want to ask him a question? Eric Cotton, Mr. Cotton, if you're on the line, we have a question from Councilmember Goods.
Yes, sir.
Listening to Ms. Sanchez, who's one of the pioneers over there, in that community over there, is this proposal consistent with the West Tampa overlay?
The only waiver from Kevin Johnson from the Urban Design Group's online, but the only waiver they're asking for is for the front yard setback for the block average along the southern portion from 25 down to 10. The rest of the overlay district was found to be in compliance for design standards.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, were you sworn in, sir?
Yes, I was.
Yes, sir. Please state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. My name is Christopher Swiggin. I am the Vice President for the Oakford Park Neighborhood Association. Army Gardens and Oakford Park Neighborhood Associations, as well as the residents of this West Tampa neighborhood, ask council members to consider these points from the city's comprehensive plan as competent survival evidence to deny this rezone request. The development is not consistent with the West Tampa neighborhood. Point 1, City of Tampa 2040 Comprehensive Plan, page 87, Land Use Policy 9.5.4, utilize single-family categories to maintain the current density and character of existing single-family areas, protect areas of the lowest intensity of development that are currently in predominantly single-family residential use or that have environmental or infrastructural constraints, such as environmentally critical areas, or respond to community plan policies for opportunities for redevelopment or infill development that maintains the single-family character of an area, but allows for a greater range of residential housing types. We would ask City Council to protect the desire to remain a lower density neighborhood. Point 2, City of Tampa 2040 Comprehensive Plan, page 173, policy 2.2.3. Develop community plans for those areas of the city expected to experience significant growth. Each plan should reflect the neighborhood's history, character, current conditions, needs, values, and visions. The neighborhood of West Tampa is a single-family detached home neighborhood. Their character is single-family detached homes. Their current condition is 90% single-family detached homes. Their vision and goals are to remain single-family detached homes in this neighborhood. Point 3, land use policy 9.1.2, which is encourages sensitive design and site plans in urban neighborhoods that mitigate the scale of larger buildings through careful use of building mass setbacks, facades, articulation, fenestration, and architectural design. The West Tampa neighborhood currently does not contain any 4-story residential homes. For that matter, this neighborhood does not contain any but one 3-story home at this point. The West Tampa neighborhood point 4, page 86, land use policy 9.5.2, maintain the character of single-family residential areas and discourage the demolition of single-family homes, residents, and displacement of residents in a way that encourages rehabilitation and provides housing opportunities to the city. The character of single-family area includes use development and density characteristics. We ask City Council to maintain this neighborhood's density characteristics. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, you were not sworn in, correct?
No, I was not.
Please raise your right hand. We'll swear you in. Oh, anybody that has come in since, I've seen a few people. If you were not sworn in and you plan on speaking, please stand and raise your right hand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Oh, may I present some
Sure.
documents into the?
67.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Debbie Zommerman. I'm a resident of the City of Tampa, 192 Corsica Street, and I have been sworn. I have provided 2 letters into the record, which I've also passed out today to all of you. They go into quite a bit of detail that includes case and point of different sections of the code that need to be looked at. I would like to start out with saying that the city actually isn't being built according to the code. This is a great picture that city staff was allowed to share how to access this. You can see the entire neighborhood all over the city. It's being built by PDs. We've come in front of you over and over and over again saying that the city is not being built according to code. It's being built according to exception. This is no difference. Someone in staff needs to go through the West Tampa overlay. There are a number of points that are listed out in detail that I won't have time to go through in 3 minutes, but the staff report needs to consider every detail in that report and say why they're not requiring that. The other thing is we need a lot of legal help in the community. It seems like words mean some things in one meeting and in another meeting words mean something else. The code is very clear. When the word shall is used, it's mandatory. There's an interpretation, which is in 2741. Within the West Tampa overlay, I say there's belt suspenders and 2 zippers because
It says that waiver of these requirements is not an option, as the code specifically states, shall comply with the standards, and clarifies that cases of conflict, the more restricted standards will apply. And then further, it states that there's minimum requirements that must be met in order to obtain approval. So how those words that we work so hard to get in the code aren't followed is a mystery to us, that we need help with that. The other thing is, I don't understand, with Anastasia Barnes' letter from March 1st of 2002, she goes in and says that staff would support waiving certain items. Why are they supporting it? They're in conflict with the West Tampa overlay that the neighborhood worked so hard to get. And also, the PD is not appropriate for this site. We've said it over and over and over again. The other thing is jumping through here, you've got a parking requirement that says that it could create some potential safety issues. Whenever there is a staff report that highlights potential safety issues, I think the city needs to quantify and characterize, do you have any exposure for that? And then please also look at the section 27241G, which talks about maximizing efficient mass transit opportunities and the potential for easement dedication and transit shelters. I don't see that in the record. I thank you so much for listening to us. We almost feel like sometimes our discussion is meaningless because when we come in front of you, the code doesn't match. Oh, and one other thing, if I may. Ms. Barnes actually said that the 14 feet, may I finish?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, I have for years said that the footnote to section 27-156 means that the yards are supposed to increase by height over 30 feet on all yards. Ms. Barnes says that in this memo that she has. That is not being applied. You're doing a wedding cake. That's nowhere in the code. It is also, that same information was provided to you in Beach Park in the expert witness report. Again, we get ignored all the time on that. So we need help to make sure your code is being followed and that when we show up here and the work we do with your wonderful staff actually results in actions that match the code and the overlay districts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah.
Next speaker, please state your name.
Hello, my name is Andrew Lawrence. I have been sworn in. I'm a resident of 3004 West Nassau Street, which directly shares a border with this potential property, and I've been a resident of the greater Tampa Bay area for the last 37 years. I'm speaking today to echo the 40-plus residents that have written in today to oppose this redistricting project. The first most obvious issue being that my adjacent lot should not have 47 homes packed upon it. While I'm perfectly acquainted to change in progress, I would have expected 4, perhaps 6 unattached homes at the maximum. The number 47 doesn't just cross the boundary of absurd, it laps the boundary several times. This is the equivalent of an entire neighborhood being overloaded into a single lot. I have a number of concerns which I would like to address in order of urgency. The first is traffic, which already predates this issue. Cypress is unusable during peak hours, and my street has cars speeding down it at all times. Because we have no sidewalks, I have to risk my dog's life to scurry to a major road with some semblance of protection on a daily basis. My next door neighbor recently had her mailbox leveled, which I would like to supply here, because we have no sidewalks and everybody speeds down our road. This project, this overreach, would easily add 100 new vehicles around the corner that are all looking to skirt Cypress and use our street, which would be a dangerous and possibly deadly disaster. I'm hoping that this mailbox doesn't become a child or a dog one day. I'm concerned about infrastructure, as I recently paid $3,000, as did my neighbor, to unclog my sewer lines, and I have no idea how this project will tax a system that is already overwhelmed. I'm concerned about the life of our beautiful oak trees, 2 of which are going to be unfairly cut down as the construction starts. I'm concerned about drainage, as the green space is going to be paved over, and we're going to have to worry about how much water that used to be swept away into our ditches are going to be covered by concrete. I'm worried about the layout. The trash compactor of this project is going to be sequestered as far away from the homes as possible, but as close as to our property as it could possibly be, exemplifying the fact that the quality of life and the comfort of the existing residents was not considered for one moment by these developers. I chose this neighborhood for the quaint, peaceful nature and consistent layout of unattached homes. Please do not put us through this ordeal. It is by any objective account an inconsistent, alien addition and a precedent for future invasions of the same kind. Thank you very much. The quality of life of our neighborhood is in your hands.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker, please state your name.
Take them out on the way in. Evening.
John DiOrio. I live at 210 North Woodland Avenue. I'm the current president of the Oakford Park Neighborhood Association, and here speaking on behalf of all of my neighbors who heavily oppose this project. Simply put, this request does not demonstrate compliance with all applicable overlay standards. Waiver of these requirements is not an option, as the code specifically states applications shall comply with these standards and clarifies that in cases of conflict, the more restrictive standards shall apply, and further states there are minimum requirements that must be met in order to obtain design approval. Approving this request undermines all of the safeguards that were established to accomplish the intent of the West Tampa Overlay District. Additionally, the applicant has not demonstrated consistency with the requirements established in section 27-241E2. Simply, we have witnessed and supported the growth of this neighborhood. We've seen the Wawa and Midtown complexes go up. But our neighborhood in Oakford Park, Armory Gardens, West Tampa is continuing to be negatively impacted by all this growth. The traffic safety concerns, we're continuing to move forward without the community in mind, without the people who live here in mind. We're making decisions that don't put the people first. On top of putting the cart before the horse, as Sandy said earlier, we don't have the infrastructure to support this, yet we're gonna throw something in that we can't continue to build on, and the neighbors who live there, the people who move into this development, won't be able to navigate the streets. So we have to move forward with these people in mind. Increased density is not the answer. We have to think quality over quantity. And we have to ask ourselves, how does this type of development help the neighborhood? How does this help the people? If we're not moving the people in mind, then our focus is off track. If we want to make the city great, we have to make great plans. If we want to make this better, then we have to make better decisions. And if we really care about our community and the people who live here, then we have to care and respect about our decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa. In addition to the dozens of letters you received from individuals, you also received letters from many neighborhood organizations: Davis Islands, Bayshore Gardens, Virginia Park, Oakford Park, Armory Gardens, and the Tampa Tree Advocacy Group. PD zonings like this are becoming a greater and greater concern to neighborhood groups because PDs are being misused and abused. Section 27-226 says PDs are supposed to be used for unique conditions which other zoning cannot accommodate. RM24 zoning allows 48 units on this property. LU policy 1.2.28 says the purpose of PDs is to allow development consistent with a land use designation, but not permitted in standard zoning. Standard RM24 zoning is consistent with the land use designation of this property. Euclidean zoning RM24 allows 48 units. Why aren't they asking for that? The reason is they want to slide out from underneath the zoning requirements of RM24. They want special treatment. They want lots of waivers. They want only 5 trees on 2 acres of land. They want exceptions. The worst way to plan a city is to plan by exception. The worst way to govern a city is to govern by exception. There is no basis for a PD except to avoid Tampa's zoning requirements. This waiver they're asking for that violates the West Tampa overlay to reduce the setback from 25 to 10 feet, there's no room to adjust the infrastructure in the future for the transit corridor, which Vic Bede says is the only transit corridor from downtown to the airport. You won't be able to add a turn lane, a bike lane, a trolley lane, a bus stop, or a wider sidewalk to make the neighborhood more valuable. You take away options for the future. They emphasize this is CMU. MU stands for mixed use. Where is the mixed use? The mixed use that gets people out of their cars. They say this is the only way to solve the affordable housing crisis. Where's the affordable housing? Neighborhoods are alarmed at the loss of commercial property. Commercial property provides jobs. Jobs in the neighborhood gets cars off the street. Neighborhoods are alarmed by PDs that undermine city planning and zoning and are becoming the rule instead of the exception. Neighborhoods are alarmed because developers are addicted to PDs and rezonings. They don't want to build to code. They want exceptions and waivers and variances. They're like a spoiled child in the candy aisle. You want to reduce your caseload? Stop feeding the raging addiction to rezonings. You want to save money? Stop wasting buckets of city resources and taxpayers' money on rezonings and PDs. Stop feeding them candy. They'll only come back for more and more and more. You can't satisfy an addiction. It's never enough. The more you feed it, the bigger it gets. Reasonable use for this property is commercial that provides jobs. Reasonable use is RM24. Reasonable use is single-family homes.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nathan Hagan. I live in North Hyde Park, which is an adjacent neighborhood to this. I'm very conflicted on this project. First of all, I support the density completely. I think it should be more dense. You guys probably know that. I would not be able to live in this part of town if we did not have townhomes in North Hyde Park. I don't know where I would be, but I would not be in that neighborhood. Townhomes are more affordable than single-family homes. If a developer is building a single-family home on that property instead of this, that home is going to be more expensive than the townhouse that is going to be in here. So when we talk about affordable housing, no, this is not workforce housing. But I tell you what goes there instead will be a $800,000 or $900,000 villa, or maybe a $700,000 villa. It will be more expensive than what these townhomes will be. If there are 6 homes on this property, it will be more expensive than if we put 47 homes on it. This is a downtown neighborhood. You know, I understand that people moved here thinking that it was a suburb. We're in a crisis. We need more homes. This is in the middle of our 2 business districts in Tampa. There's just no other way around it. This is a downtown neighborhood, not a suburb. As a traffic corridor, I have a lot of respect for people who spoke before me, but when we start talking about transit-oriented development, we're going to be talking about more housing, not less. The fact that this is a transit corridor means that this is actually more appropriate than 4 or 5 or 6 single-family homes. That would be a huge waste opportunity if we built 6 homes on this transit corridor. So I really hope we don't do that. But I say I'm conflicted because I think that this project could be a lot better. I think that the neighborhood could be a lot happier with what could come here. I think that it should be mixed use. I think that there should be affordable housing. They're not using a bonus density for anything, much less affordable housing. That's a question that we should be asking. I'm very confused about that. It doesn't make sense to me that a developer is not incentivized to take advantage of our affordable housing bonus in the city of Tampa. I hate that they're doing this by PD. Again, I completely agree with the neighborhoods on this. We need to stop relying on PDs. We need zoning reform. This is an issue that was inherited by this council. This council has an opportunity to address some specific issues relating to it, but we should not be doing these things by PD. We should legislate our values in housing in our zoning code. Ultimately, I think I have to support this project because I have no confidence that if this project is rejected today, what will come next will be better. I believe, looking at this, that if this does not get approved as it is, the solution is that there will be fewer homes on it, and that's it. I don't really know what the alternative is. I don't think they're going to go back to the drawing board and put a 60-unit apartment complex here with mixed use like I want. That's not what's going to happen. So if it's between this or single-family homes, I choose this. If it's between this and 30 homes, I choose this. If that's what the choice is, I support this project.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Bobby Creighton. Many of the speakers here have made some very, very excellent points, and I do not envy you all on the council having to deliberate between these differing perspectives. The neighborhood defenders have made some very good points. You know, they came to this neighborhood expecting a certain way of life, a certain environment that they wanted to live in. But at some point we have to face the fact that we are in the middle of a housing crisis right now, and that's not going to end anytime soon based on the projections that we've all seen. One of the previous speakers mentioned quantity as an issue, the quantity of the homes. I think that's actually one of the positives of this project. We're not going to get out of this housing crisis by building less housing, more expensive housing, and bigger housing on these same size lots. We need to be thinking strategically about how we can advance the city. And right now we're really in a crucial moment about deciding what Tampa is going to become and what sort of city we want to be. And, you know, instances like this are just a microcosm of that you all see every day. 60% approximately of the city is zoned for single family. You know, you can kind of ballpark how much is commercial and then figure how much is left for multifamily. It's not a lot. And that is really holding Tampa back. The PD zoning. Someone had a great quote earlier when they said we're building by exception and not building by the code. If that's the case, you know, why don't we look at the code and update the code so that we don't have to go through this process again and again and again, and we can finally make a determination about what we want to be as a city, what we want our city to look like, what kind of people we want to welcome to our city. and so on and so forth. And that extends to the comprehensive plan, that extends to the zoning code, that extends to conversations with planners and urban designers, obviously. It is a difficult decision to make. This is a project that would bring housing for people that desperately need it. It's not affordable, but it is more of a supply, which will, hopefully ease some of that demand. Ultimately, I would say I have to support this project, even though I hear the people who live in this neighborhood, and I definitely sympathize and empathize with their position. But zooming out to look at the city as a whole, I think it's important that we consider the number of units and housing that will become available if this is built. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. Andrew Aubrey, 505 North Gomez. I'm going to introduce some facts here that I pulled off the GIS system for Hillsborough County. 85% of the homes, what I did is I looked at Hillsborough County, I looked at 275 to the north, Armenia to the east, Kennedy to the south, and Himes to the west. 86% of those properties are single family. 86%. So for somebody to tell you that the neighborhood needs to be changing, we agree, the neighborhood is changing. There's a lot of development going on. There's a lot of double lots that have been purchased. There's a lot of things that have happened in the last comprehensive reform that rezoned huge swaths of land so that we didn't have to do this PD thing every single time. I've come before you guys so many times over the last 10 years because it's always this exception game that we're playing. Why not stick to the comprehensive land use reform? Where's all the staff resources and time that goes into those reports, and then every time we just decide to change it? So if you see here, of the townhomes that are in this neighborhood, there are 37 properties. 10 of those, there are 10 developments total, okay? Of those, 7 are detached. So this is what you guys did east of Habana. You said, hey, let's take a property, single family home, instead of being a single family home, let's make it a townhome. They're 2 stories tall. This is 4 stories. 4. There's nothing in the neighborhood. So if we want to talk about being consistent with the neighborhood, where is another 4-story building in our neighborhood? And where's the next one going to be? Because we're going to keep doing this PD thing over and over and over, and it's going to be a hodgepodge. Let's grow some political muster. Let's rezone some huge swaths of land, and let's let the developers go there and play. But it can't just keep happening piecemeal by piecemeal. It's breaking up our city and the fabric. The reason most of us bought in this neighborhood is because it's single family home. Another thing I want to talk about is the parking. There's not enough parking. The streets that this is going to be on, the overflow, there's no street parking. So when people start having parties at this place and events, where's the overflow going to go? In a road that doesn't have on-street parking. There's not enough parking. Got a couple more points. This lot was originally plotted for 10 units. Now we're proposing 47. I know people have mentioned 6. It's 10 lots. Gomez. The exit of this is going to be a left-on-left situation on Cypress. It's going to cause accidents. This is why we went to the state and got money for Himes, because there was left-on-left accidents that caused fatalities. This is going to cause another one. And again, I can't stress enough, this is non-conforming for the neighborhood. It's not what, as you see here, I'd like to enter this into the record, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much, sir. Anybody else in the
Mr. Chairman, the 2 people that I was expecting to, that got caught in the weather are here. I would like to have that additional 2 minutes. If they could sign the paper, please.
Mr. Shelby, is that possible? The 2 people that were supposed to give up their time to Ms. Sanchez are here. Could we give her 2 minutes?
They'll be glad to sign, Mr. Shelby.
Okay, they could, rather than sign, we could save time if they just stand up and identify yourself.
Sign something.
No, just identify yourself.
What is your name? Catherine Echeverria. And? Norma Salter. And you have not spoken and you're waiving your time, is that correct?
Yeah. All right, 2 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, I got it. I just wanted to explain something. Our neighborhood has developed a pedestrian community. We walk, ride, golf carts, scooters, and motorized wheelchairs to go to the retail establishments on this area of Cypress. These 4 blocks on Cypress are our mini mall. We have a Rolling Oats, the new coffee shop, medical offices, fitness studio, spa, small convenience store, barber shop, spicery, Alessi's, and the Robles Park, and we support them all. We also walk to the restaurants on Kennedy. This developer met with some neighbors, and I understand it was a pretty negative meeting. I could not attend because I had other civic duties, but the Onyx Group never reached out again, nor made any attempt to compromise. The Foundry, with 250 units, opened in March. This is just a sidebar. 60 days later, they have only rented 50 of them, and that is because they're unaffordable. The same thing's going to happen in this situation, not affordable housing. The studio apartments rent there for $1,800. The 3 bedrooms are $5,250. Could that be the reason why they're empty? They are not affordable.
Whoa.
Please.
This is at the Foundry?
Yeah.
5,000.
And it changes from day to day. What day you call changes $100 one way or another.
500 square feet, $1,800.
So please deny or continue, since most of this information that they had given you is obsolete. They have no interest in accommodating your constituents or continued interaction with the community. Please do the right thing.
Thank you very much. At the Heron down on Water Street here, for a 3-bedroom, I think it's like 9 or 10 grand.
I live there.
That's right.
Not there, but in another city. I live there in Lake City.
We have a few people that are online to speak. I believe you were sworn in. Okay, yes, ma'am. Stephanie Pointer.
Mr. Chairman, you know we're on CNN today?
Huh?
You know Tampa was on CNN today?
For what?
The #2 housing crisis problem. Phoenix was #1.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Stephanie
sorry.
Pointer, neighborhood leader. Good evening, gentlemen. First of all, I prepared this speech a month ago before that last-minute continuance, which I thought we were talking about getting rid of. This all hurry up and get ready, and then, oh, by the way, we changed our minds. I want to talk about 2 things that are a little bit different. One is waivers for setbacks and sidewalks. I'm not an expert, and I couldn't find the exact numbers, but I like round numbers. So assuming that the lot is approximately 100 by 250, the 23-foot reduction in setback to the south gives them an additional 2,300 square feet. The 13-foot reduction on the west gives them 3,250 square feet. The 3-foot reduction on the east gives them 750 square feet. That is a total of 6,300 square feet. That's a whole nother lot that they are expecting the city to bless them with, to give away their right-of-ways. I'm sorry, but as a citizen, I'm offended that they expect you to give away our land, the land that we are probably going to need for mass transit one day. Please, Lord Jesus, let us get it. A couple of feet is reasonable, but whoa, talk about taking an inch and giving a mile. Carol Ann was on it. I just want to say this out loud because it really rubs me wrong. The applicants are asking for basically an entire extra lot of setback, and we only get a 4-foot sidewalk on the east side. I'd argue that they should build smaller units that can be more efficient with the land that they have rather than encroaching on our city's green space. I'll ask why there are no sidewalks planned for this project that will support pedestrian traffic, including to those folks who live in the community. Don't allow these ridiculous waivers. Send the developer back to get a better plan. And honestly, they showed you pictures of sidewalks, but they're not on the plans unless they changed something, and I don't know about it. I mean, I'm not an expert, but in my opinion, if you're gonna build a house and you wanna build all these units, why are you not building the sidewalks too? I guess it's just too much for them. When it's gonna cost us $2.7 million to build 2 miles of sidewalks a year, we're never gonna get them unless these developers suck it up and pay for the sidewalks. Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
be back later, sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Next speaker,
Chairman, if I can.
Mr. Shelby, yes, sir.
Yes, just for the purposes of making sure the record is clear and to advise council. Council member Good's comments with regard to information that he learned on, I guess, television. I would just ask that you remember that doesn't constitute competent substantial evidence, and you don't let that please factor into your decision.
Mr. Shelby, I wasn't, y'all was just letting the council know I saw some on TV. I wasn't just striking the record for this particular case here, so just for the record.
Understand, sir. But just as long as the council understands that it's not part of the decision-making process. Thank you.
So I'm not basing my decision on something I saw. I was just letting the council know we were on TV. I wouldn't say this was part of this case.
Understood, sir.
Let's get that straight for the record.
Yes, sir.
All right, next speaker, it's Humera.
Humera Opsal. I live in Armory Gardens, and I previously sent an email, rather long. Most of my key points are in there, and I kind of threw my presentation out the window because so many of the other people from my neighborhood spoke on a lot of key points. So what I'm going to focus on is this. City and county planners talk a lot about walkability of neighbors as a priority. And I also want to say up front that I'm not against urban density. I think urban density is a good thing, but only if it's done right, not if it's done in a way that makes the neighborhood, that negatively affects the existing neighborhood. I'm not an expert traffic engineer or city planner, but I have been hit by a car. And I'm going to talk to you about the perspective of this project as someone who tries to drive a car as little as possible. My main modes of transportation are I walk, I take my bike, or I take my new electric scooter. So this project just contributes to more of the same. It's the same old car-centric, dangerous by design. We're already one of the most dangerous metro areas in the United States, and this is just more of the same. People here have already talked about congestion. So congestion usually just gives me more motivation to either walk or ride my bike or take my scooter. But guess what? All that congestion just makes it even more dangerous for me to do any of those three things. And I'm going to focus on one example of this plan, and another example of how projects are designed as car-centric. Take a look at that drive that enters onto Cypress. Those curves, where the drive is curved instead of at a straight angle, those curves are designed to make it so that the cars can whiz in and out more quickly from that exit or entrance. And guess what? They don't look for pedestrians. They don't look for people in wheelchairs or pushing strollers or on electric scooters. They don't look. They want to get in and out of that entrance as quickly as they can. And all of those people are going to be coming and going as quickly as they can in rush hour, at school time, in those times when traffic on Cypress is backed up for a mile. It's dangerous. People are going to get hit. I've been hit. I've come close to being hit more than once, and not a single one of those times was it my fault. It was because the driver was in a rush to get on or off of that busy road as quickly as they could. They're usually also looking at the phone. So this is more dangerous by design. It does not improve our neighborhood. It makes our neighborhood more dangerous for all of our community members who walk, ride their bikes, do all the things to keep cars off of the road. You're just making it more dangerous for us.
Thank you
So
very
please
much.
deny.
Thank you.
Clean up the code.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else registered? All right, that would conclude public comment. Mr. Mechanic, it's your rebuttal time, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, council members, David Mechanic. We will try to be as brief as we can. There were a number of comments, and I would ask your indulgence if we need an extra minute or two. In a moment, I'm going to ask Michael Yates to address the traffic issues, but I'd like to try and recap our responses to all the other comments. We embraced the idea that Cypress Street is a transit corridor and a transportation corridor. And every planning book you will ever read, including Tampa's comprehensive plan, encourages higher densities in transit and transportation corridors. That's where you want density in order to promote the usage of transit. Everybody knows that. But my client is not pushing the envelope. We are asking for 78% of the density that is allowed on this property without a bonus. We haven't even thought about a bonus. We are less than the permitted density significantly. There are complaints about our parking and about impacts to trees. We are fully complying with the code. There's no parking waiver. There is no tree waiver. There is no request to take down a grand tree. My client has tried desperately to avoid asking for waivers. And I would point out that I think every person, every developer would be happy if your Euclidean zoning districts allowed for reasonable urban development, urban infill development. Your Euclidean zoning districts were developed, I think, about 30 years ago, and they do not anticipate or allow for the type of urban infill development that the city is seeking today. And so my client would be more than happy not to have to file a PD. But that's not the case under the current code. Well, with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Yates to address the traffic issue.
Good evening, Michael Yates with Palm Traffic. I'm going to put up on the Elmo the slide from our presentation. We got a couple of comments on the traffic study. One, that it was done in August of 2021. Yes, because it is required to be part of the filing. We have to do it in advance of the filing. That's how long it takes to get here. But that's why it was done in August 21. There's nothing that has changed in the report that changes in that time. There was a second comment about the data being used was extremely old. What is being referenced is the ITE trip generation manual. It was published in 2017. This is just a compendium of the trip generation for various uses. And so it is, they've now come out with the 11th edition in January of this year. But at the time of the filing, this was the latest edition of the ITE trip generation. It is current data. It is a compendium of 20 years of traffic data. So all of that is consistent with the way we do it. The second comment we got was on the level of service report that the Hillsborough County MPO produces. That's the City of Tampa portion of it. They do periodic updates to that. It is dated 2015 level of service report, but they come through, and as they get counts, they do update the counts in there. And so it's not all data from 2015. Unfortunately, when they do the updates, they don't specify the count year of the counts in there. But again, of the data in there, we were at a V over C, volume to capacity, of 0.55. So only half of the capacity was being utilized by the existing traffic on the roadway. That's all I have, unless you have any questions, and we'll bring up David McKennick again.
Thank you. And I would just like to make one final point, or two final points. Mr. Yates initially pointed out that we have CG zoning on the property, general commercial. That would allow commercial uses that would generate far more traffic. We could put a McDonald's on this property and generate far more traffic than what we are generating. And I would just remind council, the Urban Design Department found this project consistent with the West Tampa overlay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions at this time from any council members? If not, if we have a motion to close.
We close.
Motion to close from Councilman Good, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, this is item number 6. Would anybody like to read this item?
Mr. Chair, I will make an attempt at it, but with your permission, I will have to state this, that it will need 4 affirmative votes to be approved.
Yes, sir.
I have made that statement. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. File number REZ 21-127, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning the property in the general vicinity of 3003 West Cypress in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification CG commercial to PD plan development, single family attached, providing an effective date. At the petitioner has met the burden of proof. Under sections, it meets with the compliance with the goals, objectives, policy of the comprehensive plan. The application is consistent with the housing chapter 1.3, which ensures an adequate amount of housing is available to meet the needs, preference, and financial capability of Tampa's housing. Under the Land Development Code 27-136, proposed use promotes effective and sustainable use of land and infrastructure. As for the waivers, the design of the proposed development is unique, therefore it needs the waivers and revisions between first and second reading.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Vieira. Roll call.
Hurtak, Carlson, Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
No.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
No.
Motion failed, being that it was tied with Hurtak and Carlson being absent.
Wait, no, it can't be.
It can't be
I mean,
tied.
I-
What was it again? Try it again.
If five's a tie.
I'm sorry, yeah, it was 3-2, so with Citro, Miranda, and Vieira voting yes, Maniscalco and Goose voting no, and Hurtak and Carlson being absent.
And pursuant to Rule 6H, if a motion in a quasi-judicial matter fails to receive at least 4 votes, the motion fails. And if another motion in order is not made, the public hearing shall be automatically reopened and continued to a time certain at the next regular scheduled council meeting. And just a reminder, next week is your next regular meeting. That is May 5th, and we do know of one council member being absent.
So we have to go to what, May 19th?
If there's no objection, May 19th, I suspect we have a full council, perhaps.
I think we should.
Mr.
Yes,
Mechanic?
sir. Yeah, we would agree to that date. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this would be,
We move to reopen and then continue it?
well,
Or
it's
it's
automatic, well, you
automatic?
can make a motion to reopen. It's automatically reopened, but might as well make the
Make a
motion.
motion to reopen.
So move from
Second.
Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
The hearing is reopened.
Yes, and now there's no motion on the floor, but obviously the council members who are absent would have to prepare and view the record in advance of the hearing. So that would be, what time, Madam Clerk? On May 19th, 2022? 10:30 a.m.
All right, do we have a motion to that effect?
That's fine, yeah. You have to have a motion on the floor to continue to May 19th at 10:30 a.m.
Motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilmember Goods. All in favor? Aye.
Yes.
All right, so May 19th, 10:30 a.m.
And again, council, the way Rule 6H works is that the council members who are absent will have the opportunity to review the record, have the opportunity to view the hearing, and there will be no additional presentation because it is for first reading consideration, but council members will be able to ask questions of the people who are present if they do have any, particularly of staff or whoever is present, and then a motion would have to be made, and then to close the public hearing, and then there would be a motion and a vote then.
All right,
Okay, any
thanks.
questions? Thank you.
All right, item number 7 has been continued, so we go to item number 8. Do you need a recess, clerk, anything? Yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
Just making sure I didn't.
to call this council meeting back to order. A roll call, please.
Carlson. Goode.
Here.
Hurtak. Citro.
Here.
Vieira. Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
All righty, item number 8.
Good evening, Council. Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. Item number 8 is REZ 21135 for a property located at 3218 West Paul Avenue. The applicant is Mark Mobley. He's asking to rezone from RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Collins with the Planning Commission.
Good evening, this is Danny Collins again with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case is in the South Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, the Interbay South of Ganny neighborhood. Closest public transit stop is approximately 3/4 of a mile southwest of the site at the intersection of Southdale Mabry Highway and West Ballast Point Boulevard. Foster Park is the closest public park being located approximately 1 1/4 miles to the northwest of the subject site. The subject site is within an evacuation zone B. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. It's generally located southeast of West Paul Avenue and South Sheridan Road. It's the third lot east of that intersection. The surrounding area is predominantly residential in character with single-family residences surrounding the subject site. Here is here is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is currently recognized under the residential 10 future land use designation. That designation allows consideration up to 10 dwelling units per acre. It is typically described as low density residential to support low density residential uses. That R10 is surrounds the subject site on all sides. That's represented by this orange tannish color. The CMU 35 is to the north of this, is approximately 2 blocks north of the subject site along West Gandy Boulevard. Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. The segment of West Paul Avenue, excluding the site, has an existing density of 5.93 dwelling units per acre, and that's based on 19 sample sites. The existing density of this block is 59% of the density that can be considered under the residential 10 future land use designation, which is well below the 10 dwelling units per acre that's anticipated in that designation. The site can be considered for 1 unit at an overall density of 6.2.5 dwelling units per acre, which is consistent with the density anticipated under the R10 designation and is only 5% higher than the existing block density of this segment of West Paul Avenue. Planning Commission staff reviewed lot widths along this segment of West Paul Avenue. Lot widths range from 50 feet to 150 feet, with the majority of the lot widths ranging from 50 to 60 feet. The lot width of the subject site is 50 feet per the submitted site plan. Taking into consideration the existing block density and range of lot widths along the segment of West Paul Avenue, the Planning Commission staff finds the request will provide a residential development that will be built within the existing street block and lot configuration of the neighborhood. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Collins? Hearing none. Mr. Cotton?
Thank you, Chair. May I share my screen, please? So again, this property is this request is REZ 21135. The applicant is Mark Mobley, represented by Steve McElhaney for property at 3218 West Paul Avenue. Again, this is a Euclidean request. There are no waivers. The request is to go from RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family. This is a platted lot. On the screen right now is the lot as platted, which is approximately 50 by 134. Submitted survey of the property. As you can tell, this has an existing one-story garage. This masonry garage, I believe, belongs to the house immediately to the east of this property. This is the zoning, the aerial for showing the zoning. To the north is RS50 residential single family. To the south, east, and west are all RS60, although there is, if you go down the block along Paul, you do see a smattering of RS50 in the neighborhood. Again, there are no waivers, as there is no site plan to review. This is the consistency map, so to speak, that shows the development pattern in the area. This is the property in question. Everything in that bluish color is 50 feet, between 50 and 54 feet. So staff identified as 37% of the blocks in the study area, which is what's shown here, 65% of the subject block, and 71% of the block of West Paul Avenue, which is this area right through here, and 44% of the block face are widths of 60 feet or less. Staff finds the proposed request for the rezoning to be consistent with the development pattern in the area. Rezoning the property from RS60 to RS50 will make this a conforming lot. Again, 60 feet, the RS60 requires 60 feet of width. This lot only has 50, the RS50 allows for the 50-foot lot. Council have any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Cotton at this time? Nope. Mr. Michelini, yes, sir?
Good evening, Council. Steve Michelini, representing Mark Mobley and their custom home company regarding the rezoning, requesting RS50 when current zoning is RS60. As the staff has pointed out from both the Planning Commission and the city staff, they found it consistent and they had no objections. This is a Euclidean zoning, so unless we file for a variance of some other kind during development, we have to meet the existing codes regarding setbacks and height and all of the other development standards. It is consistent with the development pattern within the area. It was platted in 1925, and as the staff has noted, the lots are 50 feet wide and 134 feet deep. So given that, these lots are extremely large, and there should be no difficulty whatsoever regarding the development pattern to enable this to go forward. In the past, I have gone through and I've listed all of the different consistencies that were found by the Planning Commission and by the city staff, and instead of reading all of them and going through each one of these notes, I prefer that you ask that these be received and filed and made part of the record. But it's the Planning Commission and the city staff report finding it consistent. I know it's lengthy, but it's the objective of the land uses under the city planning strategy. It's the land use objectives there that are contained in the development regulations, goals and objectives and policies, and the land use objectives contained therein under the 8-point process, the overall residential development and redevelopment land use policies, single family areas land use policies, neighborhood community plan policies, and their overall analysis finding that it was consistent. So like I said, to save time and if you just adopt this by reference, I would appreciate it. It's part of the record anyway. We are found consistent. We believe that this is a great addition. This is underutilized because there's only a garage on this particular parcel. And this is a perfect example of underutilized property that can be used for single-family development. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and respectfully requesting your approval.
Any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 8? All right, I see no one. There was no one registered for number 8, is that correct? Correct. We have motion closed from Councilman Good, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Who was next? Councilmember Goods. Would you like to read number 8?
REZ 21-135. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3218 West Paul Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and will be described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family, provided an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Good, second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call.
Hurtak, Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson, Vieira,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on May 19th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you very much. Item number 9, Mr. Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Eric Cotton from Development Coordination. Next, number 9 is REZ 2204. This is for a property at 2303 North Jefferson Street. The request is to rezone it from RM24 to PD plan development for a single-family residential detached property. Now deferring to Mr. Collins with the Planning Commission.
Mr. Collins, go ahead.
This is Danny Collins again with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case is in the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, the Tampa Heights Urban Village. The closest transit stop is located east of the subject site at the intersection of East 26th Avenue and, I'm sorry, I lost my, the subject site is not located within an evacuation zone. The closest public recreation facility, Fernando Mesa Park, is located 0.12 miles to the southwest of the subject site. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. The subject site is generally located northeast of East Francis Avenue and North Jefferson Street. The surrounding area is predominantly residential in character, with several of the surrounding uses being detached single-family uses. Here is here's the adopted future land use map. The subject site is recognized under the residential 35 future land use designation. That designation surrounds the subject site on all sides and is present all the way 2 blocks north of the subject site up to East Columbus Drive and south of the subject site to East Ross Avenue. Just north of East Columbus Drive, parcels recognized under the residential 10 designation. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the application, found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. This portion of North Jefferson Street between East Ross Avenue and East Emile Avenue has an existing density of 8.54 units per acre. The residential multifamily 18 zoning district. Sorry, I'm on the wrong thing. The existing density of this portion of North Jefferson is approximately 24% of the allowable density planned for under the R35 future land use designation. This request will allow for 1 single-family detached residential unit at our overall density of 25 dwelling units per acre, which is consistent with the density anticipated under the R35 future land use designation. The proposed rezoning supports many of the policies in the comp plan as it relates to housing the city's population. Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure that an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. The subject site is with Tampa Heights Urban Village. Infill Policy 1.17 seeks to direct the greatest share of growth to urban centers and villages, such as the Tampa Heights Urban Village. The request supports this policy direction and will provide additional housing opportunities within the Tampa Heights Urban Village. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Collins? Hearing none, Mr. Cotton, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. May I share my screen? Thank you. So again, this is REZ 2204. The applicant is Christopher Beckwith, represented by Lori Duvall for a property at 2303 North Jefferson Street. Again, this is a request to rezone from RM24 to PD plan development. The request is to build a single-family home on the property. The property is a little under 2,000 square feet. The proposed building will be around 995 square feet. This is the property in question. It's in the heart of Tampa. It's in Tampa Heights, south of Columbus Drive, right along Jefferson. Property to the north is zoned RM24. To the north and west, both public lots are currently vacant. To the east and the south, it's also zoned RM24 and developed with residential multifamily. There are some corrections that need to be made between first and second reading. There's a revision sheet attached to the staff report. Additionally, there's some additional revisions that are requested by Natural Resources. These were discovered while I was prepping for tonight's hearing. I have emailed both the applicant and the city clerk's office. Those revisions, would council like me to read those into the record? Actually, let me show you the site plan first. This is the proposed site plan. See the lot with a single family home being proposed. This is a 2-story single family home. And this is just the elevations of the property itself. Sorry about that, getting out of place. Surrounding properties, the church to the north. The site itself, like I said, is currently vacant. And this is a multifamily development. And again, this property over here is vacant. It's consistent finding with the revisions required. Would council like me to read the additional revisions from Natural Resources into the record, or is sufficient having them given to the clerk's office and to the applicant?
If you could read them into the record, sir. Okay,
will do. Add a note to the site plan below the tree table, quote, as per section 27284.2.4, 3 20-inch laurel oaks and 1 stable palm were removed from the property without a permit. Violator is subject to a triple permit fee of $369. Required mitigation is 3 type 1 penalty trees at 3 inches DBH, or payment of $450 per tree, and 6 type 1 mitigation trees at 2.5 DBH, or a payment of $300 per fee. Total amount, if paid, will be $3,519. This reflects from code case 22, COD 22305, section 27-284.4.1, table 284.4.1A. Provide the full City of Tampa tree table of debits and credits and do not abbreviate the tree table. Show 6 footnotes as well. Use an additional page if necessary. Site data table needs to be revised, showing the requirements of section 27-284.3.3, table 3.3. On the site plan, required trees, one tree per 2,000 square feet of parcel, excluding the building footprint. The calculation should be 1 tree. And add a note to the site plan about protective radius during construction per 27-284.1.1 and Tech Manual 8.2, tree protection. Comply with trunk protection requirements, provide show tree protection for grand trees, 32 inches and plus, 20 feet from the edge of trunk to closest edge of improvement. Specimen trees, 24 inches to 31 inches, 15 feet from the edge of trunk to closest edge of improvement, and protected trees, 23 inches and less, 10 feet from the edge of trunk to the closest tree improvement. 3-foot protective radius for any palms. Street trees and trees within 20 feet of the parcel must be protected and unimpacted by construction.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions? Nope. All right, if we have an applicant for item number 9, yes, sir? And please state your name.
Chris Beckwith, 8107 North River Shore Drive, Tampa. I'd like to address the trees first. I don't own the property. I have it under contract, dependent on the rezoning. The owner took the trees out based on a tree report that he has. So he actually has a tree consultation scheduled with the city lawyers on June 1st. So just wanted to make that clear.
Councilman Citro.
Are you the owner of the property?
I'm not, no. I have it under contract, trying to buy it.
Do you have, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, are you authorized to make decisions?
Yes.
Okay, do you have that in writing?
Not with me.
Are you the applicant to
I'm
this?
the applicant, yes.
Okay.
I have the authority from the owner. I don't have.
Ms. Wells, is that correct?
Kate Wells, for the record, yes, as part of the application, there's an agent authorization from the owner of the property authorizing Mr. Beckwith.
Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that's something that our
Thank you,
office
Mr.
checks
Chair.
every time before these applications come before you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna purchase the property without having gone through this process, so. As Eric mentioned, so we're trying to rezone to PD because it's a non-conforming lot. It's only 35 feet wide, 57 feet deep, so it's very small, but it's originally platted that way. So it won't meet any of the criteria for RM24. I have gone to the ARC already, gone through having them approve the site plan, which they have. I know I still have to go back through their design criteria, but, so the setbacks in this neighborhood, well, not necessarily this neighborhood, but, so the south side would be 5 feet. The north side would be 3, which is basically just like a portico all the way down that side. The front setback is 7, and the rear is 11. So if you saw in the pictures, there's the lot just to the south right here. This is a multifamily unit, and that setback on Jefferson, it's literally on the sidewalk. It's like maybe 1 foot. The lot to the north is vacant, and then this lot right here, I believe, was actually just rezoned for a duplex, and their side setback to Jefferson was 7 feet. So, I mean, this house would actually be consistent with that one and actually sit behind the apartment complex right there. It's like a 4-unit. And the structure itself, again, the side setback to this side of the house, this would be 5 feet away. The structure here would be 5 feet away. The portico would be 3. And there's the parking, there's 2 parking spots. We did them tandem because having them next to each other would basically just be the entire width of the lot. So that was the only way it would really work. And that's pretty much all I have for you.
Yes, sir. Councilman Seat.
What are the front side setbacks and rear setbacks on this?
The front is 7 and the rear is just over 11. And again, when I went through the ARC, they looked at a lot of houses in the neighborhood that have much smaller setbacks in that area in Tampa Heights.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much. Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 9? Yes, sir, Mr. Hagan? Sure. Yeah, there's nobody registered, so.
My name is Nathan Hagan. I just want to comment, when we talk about missing middle housing and the issues with our zoning code in Tampa, this is an example of what we need more of if we want to have more density. I don't really know anything about this project. I've never talked to the applicant. I didn't know about this project until I looked at the agenda today, but I was surprised to see that there was an RM 24 going to a PD. That seemed very strange to me and set off some alarms in my head, and I was pleased to see that it's because it was a 2,000 square foot lot. And one of the most impactful examples of exclusionary zoning, which is a word I've been trying to educate the community about, the rules that we set in place 80 years ago that have made housing very unaffordable in a lot of the city of Tampa, minimum lot sizes are one of those things. Having large lot size requirements makes housing more expensive. And I applaud the applicant for, well, it wasn't up to them because it was originally plotted this way, but I think this is a good example of the kinds of housing that we need to start thinking about legalizing in more parts of the city. So I know there's some issues with the trees, and it's a very novel thing to see, but I'm pleased to see some diversity in housing in Tampa.
Thank you very much. Councilman Seat, you had a question for Mr. Cotton?
Mr. Cotton, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Is this actually plotted this way, or how did this get to be such a small lot?
It was taken off, I believe. They went to a formal decision back in 2018, and it's part of a larger lot. It was split off illegally sometime in the past. It was then purchased. The person who owned it in 2018 came for a formal decision for the zoning administrator to try to determine that lot was a legal lot of record, but was unable to do that. So the only way to rectify the situation is to come before council for a rezoning application. So
this lot cannot be used for anything else, but if there's a change of use.
Correct. It will stay vacant unless there's action taken by council to provide the applicant some relief to lot size.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? No? Is there anybody else for public comment? I don't see anybody, but no, and there's nobody registered. Is that correct? We have a motion to close from Councilman Good, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Chairman. File number 9, file number REZ 22-04. Move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 2303 North Jefferson Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classifications, RM24 residential multifamily to PD plan development residential single family detached, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda with a second from Councilman Citro. Roll call.
Goose,
Yes.
Citro,
Wait.
Yes.
Did that include both, I'm sorry if I missed it, did that include the revision sheet and the additional revised revision sheet that was read at
Yes, I'm sorry, I failed to look. Yes, it does, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
Goose,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Hurtak, Carlson, and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on May 19th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. and that's with Carlson and Hurtak being absent.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next is item number 10, Mr. Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next up on the agenda is REZ 21-129 for a property located at 105, 107, 109 East 26th Avenue. It's a series of a couple of lots currently zoned RS50. The applicant's requesting to rezone it to RM18. Now I defer to Mr. Collins with the Planning Commission.
Good evening, Council. This is Danny Collins again with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case is in the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically within the Tampa Heights Urban Village. The closest transit stop is located one block east of the subject site at the intersection of East 26th Avenue and North Florida Avenue. The transit stop is served by Heart Route 1, connecting the subject site to downtown Tampa and the university. The closest public recreation facility is Robles Park, which is located a quarter mile to the east of the subject site. The subject site is not located within an evacuation zone. This is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site is generally west of the intersection of East 26th Avenue and North Florida Avenue. There are non-residential uses predominantly located along Florida Avenue, and then a transition to residential uses as you move west off Florida Avenue. This is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is within the residential 20 future land use designation. That R20 is to the northwest and south of the subject site. Along Florida Avenue are parcels recognized under the Community Commercial 35 future land use designation. And then as you move about 2 blocks west of the subject site are parcels recognized under the Residential 10 future land use designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the application, found no adverse impacts in surrounding neighborhood. This portion of East 26th Avenue between North Tampa Avenue and North Florida Avenue is presently underdeveloped. The segment is developed at 5.87 dwelling units per acre, which is 29% of the density that is anticipated under the R20 future land use designation. Residential multifamily 18 zoning district is consistent with the density anticipated under the R20 designation and will offer development that's comparable and compatible with the surrounding area. The request supports many of the policies in the comp plan as it relates to housing the city's population. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. Additionally, the Comprehensive Plan seeks to direct the greatest share of growth to the urban centers and villages. The proposed plan of development supports this policy direction by creating additional housing opportunities within the Tampa Heights Urban Village. Comprehensive plan encourages multifamily and attached single-family residential uses to be designed to include orientation of the front door to a neighborhood sidewalk and streets, and those are that's land use policy 9.2.6. Future development of the site for multifamily or attached single-family residential uses should address this policy direction in the future. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Collins? Mr. Cotton, go ahead.
Thank you. Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. Again, this is RAZ 21-129. The applicant is Benjamin Buckley. He's represented by Roberta Mead Curry. Again, this is for 3 lots. Address is 105, 107, and 109 East 26th Avenue. Again, there is no site plan involved. There are no waivers. This is a Euclidean request to go from RS50 residential single family to RM18 residential multifamily. This is the original plat. Unfortunately, it's oriented where north is to the right, but it is 3 platted lots of the property. Surrounding property to the east is Zone CI and is developed with commercial uses. To the north and south and west are all RS50. All developed. The property to the north is zoned as developed as multifamily, and to the south and west are single family zoning districts are developed with single family. If this were to be approved by council, there would be eligible up to 8 dwelling units on the site. Given the density that would be allowed under the RM18 without any waivers being granted. Just as a side, this would be an appropriate step down from residential single family going into multifamily from the more intense CI zoning uses as you go into the residential neighborhood. And then some photos of the site. Again, it's currently vacant. This is the site too. I take that back. Because of the size of the site, it has some vacant property along with a single family home on it. This is the view to the west, and this is the view to the north. And and this is the east, this is the commercial to the east. And this is just a view looking down the property going back towards the main road. Again, staff found the request consistent. Any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Any questions for Mr. Cotton? All right, Mr. Buckley or your representative? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Chairman and council members. My name is Pedro Rodriguez. My address is 607 West Martin Luther King Boulevard in Tampa. I am representing Ms. Curry and National Property Reports, the owner of the other two lots. Mr. Buckley is here with me. He's the president of National Property Reports. And we're here on a request for Euclidean rezoning to RM18 for the properties located at 105 to 109 East 26th Street. I do have a presentation I'd like to bring up.
Go ahead. If we can bring up the presentation.
Okay. So in this survey, it shows that there's 3 parcels of property. They've owned these properties for about 10 years now. They would like to develop the properties to create a setting that would allow for smaller yet more comfortable dwellings within the city limits, addressing the missing middle housing needs, as well as fitting well within the Mayor Castor's planning initiatives. There's actually 2 single-family properties on these 3 lots. There's 1 vacant lot. This is a missing middle example, and these are examples of the similar properties around Tampa. These are in the Soho district, which are zone RM24. As required by the city, the owners of the property requested meetings with the civic associations associated or affected by the requested zoning. They were able to speak with 3 of them. 2 had some concerns about having the main concerns was that there were no plans and that they didn't want to have a boxy looking structure on the property. This is a conceptual design that was designed by the late Tom Levin at the request of Mr. Buckley. It shows several smaller properties that would be built on this property. So the owners wouldn't want to spend any more money on this without having some assurance that this is what the city would approve. So providing the RM18 would give the owners that assurance that that they could actually build this sort of thing. It may be different, but this is a conceptual design. With the Euclidean rezoning, they would have to meet all the appropriate setbacks, and the issue with the type of building constructed would be an issue for the consideration of the City Tampa building officials. There are other projects that are ongoing in similar nature on North Florida Avenue, Tampa Street, as well as North Boulevard, to name a few. The arrow shows where the property is located, and those other pictures are to the south. And here's some more. Those are, I believe, on North Boulevard and on Florida also. The requested rezoning meets with the Land Development Code, Long Range Comprehensive Plan, as well as the Tampa's Envision Plan. These items, the item highlighted in yellow, are points from the comprehensive plan used as precedent by council in prior rezoning requests. The one marked with an asterisk in red have been positively referenced by the staff in their report today. And that's part of the presentation. There's presently one house on the 2 lots, on the 3 lots, I'm sorry. Both of these residences are presently rented at no charge to the tenants, basically to avoid having the residences be vacant. The Rezoning to R19 would give the owners the possibility of building up to 3 single-family residences at each rezoned parcel, or up to 9 dwellings on the 3 rezoned parcels combined. Multiple single-family residents per parcel will likely address cost concerns to potential buyers, as less land would be involved in each purchase and sale. Tampa residents want to be as close to downtown as possible. Approving this rezoning request to R19 helps toward that end, and is also helpful in the current housing shortage that we are experiencing. There's an alley to the south, to the 3 parcels, providing access to Tampa Street. We do not foresee parking as being an issue. Parking will be on site and access through the existing alley. 26th Street is actually wider than the typical residential street in this area, as apparently it is a road where the former trolley used to run. The owners wish to be contributors to the advancement of our city, and we believe that what we're requesting is very much in line with the development vision containing the comprehensive and envision plans, as well as Mayor Castor's intentions for the city. We respectfully request that you approve our request for the Euclidean rezoning from RS50 to RM18. We have provided 15 letters of support from neighbors. One of them is from John Watson, who is the fellow that runs the halfway house across the street on North Boulevard, on North Florida. That property is zoned commercial, and it extends from Florida Avenue to Tampa Street. I have also, in the presentation, I have included excerpts from the Envision Plan, which talks about community development in the city of Tampa, which we believe support our request. Mr. Buckley is here with me today. We will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the gentleman?
I haven't seen Mr. Buckley in a long time.
He doesn't age, he looks the same.
Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody in the public that's here to speak on this item, item number 10? I see no one, and there's nobody registered to speak. If there's no any other, all right.
Second.
Motion to close from Councilman Good, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Councilman Vieira, would you mind reading item number 10?
Yes, sir. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 105, 107, and 109 East 26th Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS50, residential, single family, to RM18, residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call.
Hurtak, Goods,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Carlson, and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson and Hurtak being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on May 19th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
You too. All right, last item of the night, item number 12. Mr. Cotton.
Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. This is AB 22. Oh, can I share my screen, please? Sorry. Thank you. This is AB 2206 for property at 3615 and 3617 West Gandy Boulevard. The applicant is David Smith from Stearns Weaver. This is a request for an alcoholic beverage for a large venue. The proposed use is shoppers goods, but they would like to do large venue for consumption on premise and off premise in package sales. So the property currently has 2 alcohol permits on it. One was an 2 APS. Let me just start to the front. This is for a public grocery store. There's the main store has a 2 APS. The liquor store has a 3 PS. They're proposing to go to a large venue. They're requesting roughly 64,281 total square feet. 61,500 roughly will be indoors, and about 2,800 square feet will be outside. They did receive a design exception back last year in 2021 to reduce the required parking spaces. So they were going from 245 spaces down to 228 spaces. Their hours of operation will be proposed to be for the main store, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday, and the liquor store from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday. They're asking for 2 waivers from the AB requirements. One is a distance separation from other places that are wet, which I believe this is the Target store, from 250 feet to 122 feet, and from residential uses from 250 feet to 67 feet. Again, the Target store is what's closest to them for that currently sells alcohol. They have a 2 APS, and there's Bayshore Villas condominium, which is 67 feet away. Those are the 2 waivers requested. This is the proposed site plan. Again, it's a grocery store, Shoppers Goods. This is the proposed liquor store. This is a mezzanine and outdoor seating area. This is the existing site at the corner of South Himes and Gandy. This is the Target in question. This is the Bay Villa condominiums. And this pictures, the property is under construction right now. And there's some photos of the surrounding properties. You can see the condominiums to the north, Target store to the west, and across the street is, strip commercial, a Wawa, and a Chick-fil-A. And the Starbucks is actually on the same property as the Publix. We found it inconsistent because of the waivers requested from the distance separation. And there are some minor corrections to the site plan that need to be made through first and second reading. Although, hold on one second, please. I don't see a revision sheet attached to the staff report. Within the staff report itself, there are some revisions requested. List waivers identified on the second page, the distance separation that we just talked about. Update the aerial map on the site plan. Update the title to read alcoholic beverage sales, special use 2, large venue, beer, wine, and liquor, consumption on premise, package sales off. Package sales for consumption off premise, and to update the address. Council have any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Cotton? Nope. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, David Smith, 401 East Jackson Street. I'm a planner with Stearns Weaver Miller. Eric's done a very good job, as staff always does, of describing it, but I will go through some orientation. Hopefully this will show on the Elmo fairly clearly. Perfect. So as staff has indicated, this is a request for a large venue, beer, wine, and liquor, consumption on premise, and package sales off premise. It's kind of a large description. It sounds like we're doing a big bar, but this is a sip and stroll concept for our Publix. Basically, they'll have beer and wine. People will be able to shop, walk around, enjoy beer and wine, and get their groceries and go home, and also have package sales. What I'm showing you here is the existing, well, what was the existing Publix? It's now been demolished, is under redevelopment. It originally had a liquor store on the west side, and the 2 PS for package sales was the main store. As indicated by this site plan, the reason for us to come back in, other than the 2 COP aspect of it, is that a drive-in window was placed on the west side for pharmacy. That came to council, I believe, in a special use approval not too long ago. They've relocated the package store to the east side of the property, which is right here, and this is the redeveloped store, the mezzanine area, and the outdoor seating. The outdoor seating is just designed for people to get a deli sandwich that do get a beer. They can go out and sit in the sunshine and enjoy that. It's not intended for service per se, people actually selling beer in that area, but they will be consuming it. The waivers we have requested have been itemized by staff, but this just gives an orientation. Here's the property line for Target. Here's the store line for the, not the new store, but what will be the location that requires the distance separation, and also on the back. It should be noted both of these waivers essentially These stores have been in relationship to one another, just like this, for probably 20 years. There are additional residential properties that are further away across Himes, but essentially the building is not getting any closer to them. So based upon staff's review, the standards for mixed-use corridors, we respectively request granting the waivers and approval of the special use. Again, the intent is for the main store body to be able to have sip and stroll and package sales to occur from the liquor store. Be glad to answer any questions.
Councilman Citro.
Pardon?
I think he reflected to me. Okay, I'm going to see if I can grasp this. And please, I mean no offense to Publix. They're going to have on sale, on premise
consumption.
But you're going to have a separate liquor store.
Yes, sir.
You got beer and wine in the store, but you're going to have a separate hard liquor store. So to be able to drink regardless of alcohol content in the store, someone would have to first go to the package store, put it underneath their arm, go into the store and get their tonic for their gin or their ginger beer for their Moscow Mule to have a sip and stroll.
Well, let me explain a couple
I'm just
things.
looking for yes or no.
Right. No, well, it's hard, it's not a yes or no answer. Because the licensing that's associated with it, the description in the Tampa code for the type of wet zoning you ask for does not necessarily match up with the type of licensing you get from the state. 2COP would be a beer and wine on-premise consumption license, which is what Publix will be seeking for the large venue space. And the package sales would be solely the hard liquor would be in a separate building as required by state law, a separate entrance in order for them to have package sales. It's not the intent of Publix to have people buy hard liquor, bring it in the store and drink.
And again, if I may, Mr. Chair, nothing against Publix. However, what I just said may hold true. Somebody wants to do some grocery shopping and have a gin and tonic, they got to go to the liquor store first and then go to the grocery store. Yes.
They could do that, but under the license that's being requested would not.
You can't do that.
2COP, consumption on premise, they can't take their package and bring it in. They sale and consumption on premise. It's not a bottle club.
I'm just reading what I'm seeing.
If I may, counsel?
Mr. Cotton.
Yes, Mr. Citro, so through the alcohol licensing by the state, they will not be able to sell package at the liquor store portion. You cannot open and consume within, I believe it's 500 feet by city regulations. The package store, the liquor portion of the liquor store is selling package only. Inside of the grocery store itself, that's where the three PS is coming from. Inside the grocery store itself, where they sell the beer and wine, that's where they're selling for consumption on premise. That's limited to just beer and wine. They cannot legally go into the package store, buy a bottle of gin, walk next door, buy a bottle of tonic and start mixing. That's against both city regulations and the state of Florida.
The definitive word there was legally. Okay, then let me go about it from this angle. You're going to have consumption on premise in a 61,000+ square foot building.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's just like Greenwise Grocers, just like Trader Joe's. It's basically Whole Foods. Those locations are have sip and stroll. We'll just call it sip and stroll.
In the city of Tampa.
Yeah, in the city of Tampa. Large venue. There was just a Greenwise approved in downtown at Water Street. That's a Greenwise that similar size that has sip and stroll.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I never heard of that. I'm sorry, but this whole concept is just amazing to me. Even in my strongest days of drinking, I could never have conceived this.
Well,
I would have never left the store.
It doesn't happen a lot. In other words, this is a new Lucky's, who was all over Florida until they went bankrupt. But they had that concept. Whole Foods has been doing it across the state. Greenwise grocers are doing it. This is the only difference here. This is not a Greenwise grocer. This is a standard Publix for the request of sip and stroll. It's not intended to be a bar, but is intended to allow clients to have craft beers from the venue, to walk around and consume on premise.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, the craft beers being brewed on premise.
It would be craft beers would be sold in the cans. They don't brew their own beer.
Councilman Goods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, he brought it out, and I was gonna ask that question. So now, what we're saying is, Publix, the grocery store, is gonna have an area inside the store where people can eat and drink?
Basically, now they have a deli. All Publix have a deli area. Many of them have a seating area for people to eat their deli sandwiches. This will allow people to buy a beer or get a glass of wine from the pours area and consume that while they're either having their sandwich or walking around the store in the grocery store. That's.
I understand I understand maybe a new concept. I have concerns of being able to drink. You know, I understand it's a new concept, but it's just kind of, I'm thinking about kids and families and people inside of a Publix. But it's new, I guess.
I just gotta say,
Councilman Moran.
I understand that things change, I really do. And I can just see it now. Unmanned food cart has an accident while drinking. I mean, that's possible. Nothing's impossible when you start something.
Yes, sir.
So they're taking a big risk, in my opinion, but it's their risk, not mine.
Yes, sir. And they are doing this concept elsewhere, so this is not like the first one in the state.
You know, it's just people, I vote for alcohol. I don't drink, but it's just, I've never drank. That doesn't mean I'm good or bad. But it just,
I understand, sir.
Councilman Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can't predict the future, and I'm not going to, but, this is for consumer goods sales along with alcohol consumption, for the most part.
On site. Basically, they're selling alcohol today, package sales and
For
all
and
groceries.
consumer
and
goods sales.
This allows them
So
to
if the
consume.
alcohol sales really starts ticking up, then all we'll see in the store is Brillo pads, Fabuloso cleaner, and maybe bag of chips. And the rest will be aisles of alcohol. I'm just envisioning something changing over the course of time.
the liability is theirs.
Yes.
Really, really big. And they got a big brand name.
And again, I would
Really,
never
really
say
big.
anything against Publix, I'm sorry.
I'm not saying it, I'm saying the liability is theirs. This is what they want, be careful what you ask for.
Yes, sir.
Remember that saying.
Anybody else? Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak? There's nobody here.
Lady in the third row, the guy over there.
The ghost in the third row. We have Stephanie Pointer registered online. Ms. Pointer?
Good evening, gentlemen. Okay, this is not a brand new idea.
Please
There
state your
are-
name, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Stephanie Pointer,
Yes.
civic activist. There are grocery stores all over the state of Florida who have this concept. This is not something brand new. Please, for the Lord, please help us out in South Tampa. We have nothing. At least this is the ability to have a cocktail. My husband might actually go to the grocery store with me because he can belly up to the bar while I'm shopping. He probably won't, but at least it sounds good on paper. I'm just kind of flabbergasted at all the conversation around this because it shows me how little you people go to the grocery store. Shame, shame, shame.
Oh,
All right.
excuse me, Ms. Pointer, I go to the grocery store every day. I'm gonna be heading.
Well, you're not going to the right grocery store, Joe.
I tell you what, I go to the grocery
I
store.
go to the grocery store every day, Ms. Pointer, thank you.
But thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Y'all have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Same to you.
Do we have anybody else, or that's it? I've seen this at Whole Foods, they do it. They do it at the Greenwise down here. It's just, just how it is, you know, but as Councilman Miranda said, it's the liability is theirs, you know, it's on their property and, you know, so it is what it is.
Move to close.
Motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Goods, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Councilman, Citro, you're deferring.
You may not like what I'm having to say.
Councilman Goods, would you mind reading item number 12?
AB 2-22-06. Ordinance presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance providing a special use permit S2 for alcohol beverage sales, large venue consumption on premises and package sales / all premises consumption, and making lawful the sale of beverages regardless of alcohol content, beer, wine, and alcohol on that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 3615/3617 West Canyon Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 4, provided that all ordinance and parts of ordinance in conflict are repealing ordinance 9429-A and rescinding special use S1 V11-401, providing an effective date.
We have a motion. Yes, sir?
I believe I heard from staff that it includes revisions that are within the site plan, or is that incorrect? Did I miss that?
The coordination, yes, they're actually listed out in the staff report themselves. It was on a separate revision sheet. I read them into the record.
Yeah, and we agree with the
Thank you.
revisions required.
Thank you.
Motion from Councilmember Goods, who was the second? Councilmember Miranda, roll call.
Viera.
Yes.
Citro.
No.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak, Carlson, Goods,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro voting no, Hurtak and Carlson absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on May 19th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. That concludes the agenda, so we'll go to new business. Councilmember Goods, do you have anything?
Yes, sir, I have just one. This morning I made a motion in reference to HUD. I had a conversation with Mr. Shelby and our economic advisory administrator and legal for housing, and we need to make some revisions to that. A motion to amend my previous motion made at the workshop today regarding a letter to HUD, and instead to ask the chair to send a letter to request the State Department of Business and Professional Regulations to immediately intercede in the matter of Silver Oaks Apartments regarding the property owner to expedite remediation the substandard units and take enforcement action against its non-transit apartment license if it fails to immediately address the deplorable living conditions.
Second.
Okay, do we have a date or anything, or?
I think legal in the.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Goods, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Anything else, sir?
That's in legal. We'll help,
Yes, sir.
we'll draft that.
Councilman Citro.
Nothing for me tonight?
Councilman Vieira.
Just really quick, if I may, we have Memorial Day coming up at the end of May, and we always invite some Gold Star families to come and briefly speak. I would ask that that be set first on the agenda on, I think it is May 26th, if I may.
Absolutely. We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira for, this is it's a workshop day, but that
Yes, sir.
should be fine.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah. Motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Anything else, sir? Councilman Miranda? Yes, sir. Councilman Vieira, I have just one item. I'd like to make a motion to present a commendation to the International Peace Run Team on May 4th at a location to be determined. It'll be off-site.
We have a motion by Councilman, or Chairman Maniscalco, second by Councilman, I believe it was first Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else?
That's it. Mr. Shelby?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Last week, the council voted to put Councilwoman Hurtak on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and the motion was cut to come back next week, which I mistakenly said next week instead of May 5th. So I would ask the council, so it appears on the agenda for a vote, to a resolution approving, ratifying, and confirming the appointment of City of Tampa Council Member Lynn Hurtak, a locally elected official, to fill a vacancy on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee for the remainder of a 3-year term ending September 17th of 2023, providing an effective date. I'm going to give the copy of the first page to the clerk.
Excuse me.
And if it compare,
I'm not trying to correct anyone, but it's not a 3-year term?
did it say 3-year term? Did I say that?
Yes.
Did
Yeah.
say
It should be
three-
one.
Oh, with the remainder of a 3.
Yeah.
It says the
Remainder, I'm
remainder
sorry.
of a 3-year
I
term.
said, wow.
No, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Motion from Councilmember Citro, second from Councilmember Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? May we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Citro. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.